I like your red. Are those red or pink?
Pink.
Ooh. Very nice.
Red would be too
Manly.
too manly. Yeah, too manly.
Well, I mean, in this day and age, what is manly?
Let's see. Well, what do I care?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Pink was originally a man's color, so boom.
it's color. That's right.
Back when you were a teenager, right?
Yeah, go pick yourself.
Oh,
What can be these?
I like the red ones, or the pink ones better.
It's actually a salmon color. You know, I kind of like the.
Well, if you were in Florida, they would call it coral.
I kind of figured that you would like this one, but I could have been wrong.
Well, let me tell you what it's about.
Okay,
It's about
why don't you? Let's start with that.
It's an isolated community island, and they only have one church, Catholic church. The priest goes missing, basically, and one of the main characters is also alcoholic. But we'll get into that later, probably. But anyway, he's kind of the main character that you kind of follow from the beginning. He kind of carries you through the thing.
Yeah.
And but there's a priest who goes on a mission to Jerusalem.
Sabbatical
And he kind of just decides to wander into the desert. And something happens there. And then that's kind of what happens. And then all of a sudden we go back to the island, and there's a young priest taking the place of the older priest. And he's very mysterious, and he seems really creepy, actually.
And he's super charismatic.
Yeah, he's very charismatic, especially for a Catholic priest, in my experience.
That's right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with you on that.
Well, I grew up Catholic, so I have seen a lot of priests. I've only seen maybe one or two there that were kind of that charismatic. There was one that was that charismatic that ended up getting in trouble with male prostitutes. But anyway, that's another story.
It's a different type of charisma.
Right, totally. No, but he kind of had that way of
right.
making everything sound exciting.
Oh,
Apparently he had a vice. He sinned. Like, I mean, priests are men. They're not gods, so they sin too. But anyway.
well, not much of a god.
But yeah, no, they're not even close to God. That's what I'm saying. That's the point, is that's what's interesting about this to me, is that, well, for me, some of it was a little too close to home for me, because it was like...
Is that what I see in you? Because you don't seem to have like grabbed this.
Well,
this goes back to something I've said is I've seen people that were absolutely horrified by The Exorcist, right? And I never gave because I never understood what the they were talking about.
well, The Exorcist terrified me because I saw it was a young child who was Catholic.
Hello?
But no, this was I mean, they were singing like hymns that I knew. They were saying things that I recognized. The whole thing was very recognizable to me. And
yes.
But it seemed blasphemous. I'm saying that word wrong. But yeah, it kind of made me uncomfortable because I felt like the director was very anti-religion, atheist for sure, was trying to trash organized religion. But I looked it up online and found out.
That is interesting because from my point of view in watching it, my feeling was that he was very religious.
Well, the funny thing is I looked it up and
Yeah.
I found out he is atheist. He used to be Catholic. So he's trying to kind of, well, I don't think he's trying to trash it. But then so I kind of went down a rabbit hole on this because I looked up the director, found out he was atheist, used to be Catholic. But I think he's actually still believes in a lot of stuff, obviously. So we never talk about this, but I definitely believe in God, but I'm not Catholic anymore, but I do go to church and stuff. So,
right.
But so that's why this was a little uncomfortable for me, I think, because it was like pretty much all about religion, more or less.
And the further that you get into it, the further into it having a religious undertone it goes, and yet there is a whole other element that we're dealing with that is, to say the least, misidentified.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
See, that's
well, I wouldn't say that it's not a religious undertone. It's like it becomes the main theme of it for a while. Well, well, let me finish my rabbit hole story. So after I look up at the priest, I'm like, okay, I'm curious to know what priest would think about this. So I actually Googled, and I found an article written by a priest who watched this movie.
Yeah,
and he said the director is more Catholic than he thinks he is, because
absolutely.
He was pretty spot on.
Absolutely, he was, and especially when it got way down the line towards the end.
And the weird thing is, the Catholic priest seemed to like this one. So I'm just saying.
I can understand that, because it definitely was not anti-religion.
Well, okay, so here's my story. I was watching this really late at night, got to episode 6, which is a big episode probably.
Wow, yeah.
And it was like 3 a.m, and it got to the part that was really uncomfortable for me, when they were all in the place that they couldn't get out of, and I was like, oh, I can't finish this right now because I won't be able to sleep because I'm freaked out. I feel like I felt like when I watched Mother a little bit, but not quite that bad. So I'm gonna go back to it and watch the last part of 6 and 7.
The last two. I think that there are 8, right?
Yes,
I think that altogether there are 8.
Yeah. Well, can we go back to the beginning of the show?
Sure.
Because if I was watching this as a regular person, I would have bailed after episode 2 probably. Because it felt like a Murder, She Wrote episode that had way too much dialogue.
It did, and
it wasn't natural dialogue. It was like not how people talk. It was a little too intelligent.
That's true, but part of it had to do with the taking over of people of what was happening. But because you went 6, it gets weird.
Yeah. Well, it felt like a Stephen King movie
weird.
too.
What?
So that's the other thing, is the director happens to be a Stephen King fan, which I knew right off the bat, because this is like totally a StephenKing kind of theme.
There are very.
Oh, by the way, Mike Flanagan was the director, who also wrote and directed. What was it? Oh, Gerald's Game. Dr. Sleep.
Gerald's Game, right.
He did adaptations of those.
And he also did Haunted...
the Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion. And here's what's interesting, and this is why I really support... I kind of really support this guy, because he is actually doing a series of movies with the same troupe of actors and the same lighting crew and the whole bit, right? So this is actually the 3rd in the row.
Wow.
That he's done with the same group.
Huh.
Haunted Mansion, the Haunted Mansion one being one of them too. And I kind of you have to appreciate loyalty in this business, and the fact that they are all pretty well done. I mean, there is no doubt that it is really well done.
Well, this was also done. I guarantee this was shot. It was under production probably during the pandemic. So I know that there were some themes there that probably showed up because of the pandemic.
Right.
But I'm sure it wasn't written that way. But I'm sure they added.
Also, the thing is,
because they're talking about the epidemic thing.
Right. They talk about the epidemic a lot, and the epidemic, as in it's already been done. It's already finished. But the interesting thing about it is you might be right, because it didn't feel like it was finished.
Right.
I mean, it was a very specific group of people.
But they're trying to figure it out. Well, this came out in 2021, so that would have been 2020-ish. 2019, 2020.
So it really wasn't. It really probably wasn't filmed. it was filmed in the pandemic. Right?
So I think accidentally it was kind of a allegory or a metaphor to.
Well, that's the really weird thing about it.
Reality.
It does work. It does work as a really interesting isolationist. Because this is a different kind of isolation than the isolation you're putting yourself through, and the turnaround in the last two episodes, the turnaround, it really works against that isolation, right?
Yeah.
That turns out to be. It turns out to be either a problem or disaster, depending on whose side you're on. But there are themes in this that are really interesting. I don't think that it was done. It definitely was not done the way that most. It does remind me of Stephen King. It reminds me of The Stand in a way.
Yeah, Stand, absolutely.
It's got elements of The Stand. It's got elements.
And Salem's Lot.
Yeah, it's kind of a cross between Salem's Lot and The Stand, but crossed with The Exorcist.
Right.
I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
Well, I want to see more from this director because it's a drama. It's not a horror movie. This is a drama, really.
Oh yeah, no, it's like a straight ahead drama. It really is. I mean, it's a straight ahead drama with a hell of a lot of blood. Hell. And
well, I think the word I would use for this would be unsettling for me. It's not like it's scary. It's just unsettled. I felt uncomfortable, which is good, I guess.
Yeah.
But I couldn't make it through episode 6. I'm like, I'm going to sleep because I'll watch this when I'm more awake because it's freaking me out right now.
Yeah. It is a pretty freaky.
Like episode 6 where somebody does something
but you have to admit
somebody shows up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. you have to admit it is not your average. It is not your average series at all.
Yeah, no. I was going to say they show too much of the person, the invited guest, but maybe not because it's not really horror. It's not really meant to be that. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, no. You know what? I wouldn't put a number on it. I wouldn't put a name to it. Really, to tell you the truth, it's just really interesting. It's
well, I thought you were done with all these like dark, depressing things. And I'm like, what? He suggested this? What the? But then I understood when I was like, okay, this director seems really interesting to me. I haven't really seen a lot of his stuff. I like Kate Segal a lot. Zach Gilford. I like both those actors. So.
Yeah, Zach Gilford was playing the priest, right?
Yeah. No. He's the one that was the alcoholic. Yeah. I think I have that right. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, he's the one that played the alcoholic, Zach Gilford. I've seen him in other things, and he's always kind of a what do you call it, a anti-hero kind of character.
Yeah.
He seems to always play that part. The guy that played the priest, he was from one of those comedy shows, and I can't remember which one it was.
He actually, I think that he did probably the best job and I think that he had the most difficult job to do, because he was writing such a fine line down. And the thing is what you have something that is not of the religion that he has twisted in a certain way. So, and he's trying to twist the religion to meet this other thing, right?
Yeah.
And
he was using his he was basically forcing his own free will in other people.
Right.
I mean, he was trying to do God's will, but it was really his own will.
Right.
That makes
Exactly.
Sense.
Exactly. And actually not even his own will in a weird way.
Hamish Linklater. I can't pronounce his name, but I probably butchered it completely. Hamish Linklater. Yeah, that's the guy who played the priest.
Anyway,
but he was in some kind of comedy show, and I want to say it was the Two Bitches show or one of those shows. I can't remember, but I was like, I've only seen him in comedy. I'm like, this is weird. But then I got into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I have to finish this to really know. But I want to mention Karen.
Go all the way to the end because.
Do you know who the monster in this was? It wasn't the invited guest. It wasn't the priest. It was Karen. Bev Keane.
Yes.
And do you know who she reminds me of?
Really, in so many ways.
Do you know what made me uncomfortable about her? Was that she saw evil and was like, oh, evil. Okay, let's just bring on the end of the world. They need this. The sinners need this. But
it is evil wrapped up in the church lady. Is what.
But you know what else? No, well, it's worse than that. It's actually those self-righteous Christians that that say they're anti or they're pro-life, but then they're for the death penalty, and then they don't like adultery, but then they'll vote for people who committed adultery. So It's like,
oh yeah, no.
So that's who she represents for me. I don't know if that's what the director meant, but that's totally what I got out of it.
You know for sure that she's a Republican. right down the line.
She could be more. She could be farther right than Republican, I think.
Well, today the Republicans are further right than Republicans.
But she made me want to. I actually. It's rare that I want to punch somebody in the face.
I swear to God, this woman in acting, she is. You know, the funny thing is the priest has got the toughest acting job, but she is absolutely 100% acting for the last guy in the theater, man. And it just makes you just want to kiss her. Oh God, all the way along, it's like, oh my God.
Well, especially when she walks in on something that had just happened and she's just like, oh,
right. Oh, okay. Yeah. And
this is what we're doing now.
You go, yeah, that was indeed a twisted thing, because you could tell immediately that she twisted that around in her head. And you went,
she did. Well, she verbally did it too. Like, she found ways to verbally twist a lot of things
right.
to make it work in her favor, which is what a lot of people do. Like, televangelists do that all the time. I like how she stepped over something. It was interesting. Just the way she did it was like perfect. Okay, but anyway, she stepped over something that was there, or something that was left there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Aren't you,
so I guess I had mixed feelings for this.
I'm trying to think of.
The sheriff was awesome too.
Oh, the sheriff was awesome, right? Yeah.
And that's the other thing this brings up. It brings up the fact that pretty much all religions are really similar. They all support a higher power, but then there's also a connection between Christianity and Islam. There's a lot of things in common, and they actually respect Jesus. So it's like, my favorite part was when, well, as far as the religion aspect, my favorite part was when he was having a conversation with Bev, and he was talking about how Muslims believe Jesus was a prophet, and
right?
he was,
exactly.
That kind of thing, and she just dismissed it all, like,
right, yeah, I know, because she also did something that people really do. And she made it so obvious that she was doing it. You had to let's stand back and go, wow, that was some amazing acting. Is she is just wait. She is obviously just waiting for you to finish talking.
yes.
Right. I mean, and she did it so well. And the thing is that is an actor's trap for sure. Because one of the problems with it is actors usually learn all the lines that are going on, and one of the first mistakes that a director can make is to let it become is to let the directing of a scene become everybody waiting for the last person to finish their line.
You are so right. Well, we do that with each other. Sometimes we do that to each other because we're both trying to get something out. We're like,
that's right. But the thing is it's really uncomfortable when you see line after line after dialogue, and the one person is doing nothing. You can almost see them wait for the line in their head.
Yes.
Right?
Well, actually, what's worse is like, so my kids are into like, well, obviously we watch a lot of kids shows because I have kids.
Yeah.
But sometimes they get into those really cheesy ones. And you can see the other actor mouthing the other person's lines.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That always cracks me up when I see that.
You're really bad. It's funny. I see that because I go in and help people a lot of times with really cheap films, and they say, well, what did we do wrong here? And you go, well, that's number one. Is everybody's waiting around for Bob to finish talking. Oh, Jesus. But here's the thing. She did it the way people do it in real life.
Totally. Yeah.
Which is really weird because she somehow didn't make it seem like she was being an actor about it.
Yeah, no, it was very real. It totally was.
No, I love this whole group.
Maybe they were improvising. And she really didn't like him.
I love Mike Flanagan's his whole thing. I love that he's bringing these actors from one show to the next and doing. But
nothing happens
really
until episode
well.
4. That's my only complaint. I'm like, nothing interesting happened.
I totally have that. But you know what? I know you, and if I had told you to only do 3, I knew that you would just keep on going until you got to the meat of it.
Well, I saw that there was only 8 episodes. I'm like,
8
okay,
episode in the whole thing.
I'll try to watch as much as I can.
And it's the great thing about it is he does limited series. He doesn't try and leave anything.
Well, that's what The Dark was
for another series, right?
The Dark was kind of like that. It was a limited series that ended, but I guess there was an opening where they could continue. But
but he doesn't put the openings in. He literally. Here's the thing: is when I say that he literally burns everything down before the end of this. I mean, he doesn't make it possible to return at all.
If I were
Not
him, I'd
at
do a
all.
sequel to this, and I would have a group of I would have a group of that have a weekly meeting, and they're going to invite a priest in.
I tell you, let me tell you something. I am going to bet right now that this guy has already got his entire troop out and is putting together another series, right? Because
Well, I don't know what's wrong with
great limited series.
Why not?
And he
I
does
mean,
them so well.
isn't it like what's the job security right now? If you're just working with the same director all the time,
Right.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, what can I say? Job security is there's something to be said for it. It really is.
I mean, if you need somebody to go steal cables, and I'll be happy to join.
In a heartbeat.
I'm good at borrowing cables from other people.
So I had to put this. If I hadn't seen the last 2 episodes, and by the way, there's no way that you can get to number 6 and stop yourself. It's no way.
Somehow I did.
Well, but I mean, stop yourself. You're going to go back and finish.
Well, I stopped right at the climax of that. Probably, I was like, oh, "This is getting really weird." I got to get up at 7:30. I'm going to stop this.
I can understand, but I have to say, absolutely 100%. I love this one. I have to say, I'm giving it a 4. I'm giving it a 4. I think people should see it.
I think it's probably easier for somebody.
The first 3,
Yeah.
First 3 or 4, just call it world building and go from there.
Well, I think if I was going to tell anybody in my family, I would probably say avoid it because you want. It's so anti. It seems to be so anti, but it's not. I don't think it really is anti. I can't really. I don't know that because I haven't seen the last 2 episodes completely, so I don't know. I can't assume that, but it made me so uncomfortable, and I don't even go to a Catholic church anymore, but I was so uncomfortable. I'm like, oh my God, this is brutal. It's all about religion. It's all.
See, and to me, all religions are kind of equally ridiculous. I mean, I started as a little tiny Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh, okay.
and then moved through a couple of other religions, and now I don't believe in all of them equally. But
well, yeah.
But I never did. I never understood Catholicism.
Yeah.
Catholicism is completely beyond me, and I never had any problem with The Exorcist. I
Well, I wouldn't say The Exorcist is really Catholic. It's just
no, it is totally.
Well,
completely.
it was all about the rite of exorcism, which
right. But the thing is
the practice of exorcism. I mean,
is most of the people that were really scared to death of that film, most of them were Catholic.
Right.
I mean, the other people that were not Catholic that weren't raised in were just like, what? Huh?
Well, see, now I'm what my dad refers to as Catholic light. I'm an Episcopalian, so it's like,
oh, that is Catholic light. Yeah,
it's a lot of similarities, but it's actually in every Episcopal church I've been in, they always say the same thing. Welcome everybody. In fact, I even went to a church here years ago, and they actually invited other members of other religions to come talk. So they brought somebody from the synagogue, somebody from the mosque down the road to kind of talk about the similarities and differences, and then answer questions, which I thought was cool because they were talking about like having respect for other religions and not judging them on the surface and that kind of thing. But that's kind of the message, and then also invite everybody. Have female priests, which is, oh my God, that's horrible in the Catholic Church. They would never allow that. They're okay with gay people. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah, no.
So it's a little bit more. It fits me better, I guess.
I am.
But I get your point, though. Organized religion can be kind of terrifying, especially when you get into like televangelists and people like that.
The thing is, there's so many people that are Catholic, and the Catholic Church has a bunch of really specific beliefs, and it's not only beliefs, but
Well,
say?
yeah, rules.
Mechanisms.
Well, they have a lot
It's-
of rules and stuff. I
They
mean,
have they have rules and mechanisms and robes
and then, well, the other
and
thing is that they have a.
swinging things that smoke and shit like that.
I mean,
And
there's
nobody
a.
really.
Well, they do that in the Episcopal Church too, but the thing is, they also have a bishop who, but the bishop is not like the Pope. It's more like somebody who's elected in, that kind of thing.
Right.
But in the Catholic Church, they believe that the Pope is chosen by God to be a vessel to speak through, basically, which I never understood that personally, but. So anyway,
all religions.
Back to this movie.
Back to this series.
It was heavy-handed on the religion, I think, but then it was slow to get going. I think it could have been 5 episodes, really, honestly. I really like the sheriff. I think they should have showed him more. I didn't like his costume though. Looked like they made his costume in 8th grade economics class. Did you notice that?
I commented to Paula that it was the most generic.
Well, it looked like an economics class made it.
Well, you know what? It was like it was a cross between the sheriff and a crossing guard.
Yeah.
In a weird way, right?
And I did like how wrinkled it was. I mean,
yeah.
But I'm like, okay.
But
first of all,
I loved his character.
Any self-respecting Muslim probably wouldn't wear a uniform that dirty and wrinkled. But I mean. According to I guess I might have some clean Muslim friends, but anyway.
But what you know what they were trying to say with that, right? They were trying to say that his wife died.
Yeah. Well, he actually literally said it. They didn't really say it with this outfit that much.
But you know what? You don't just say it. You say it because he doesn't press his own clothes.
Well, it's funny you say that because you know who does laundry at my house?
You know what? Don't even start. Don't
look at how smooth my outfit is. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
you're gonna make me throw up.
I did like the horror tropes in this, even though it wasn't a horror movie. They did some dumb, stupid things, which I always appreciate. That you're peeing and you hear somebody outside, you leave the curtains open. Oh, something creepy outside. I'll just pee with the windows open and the curtains wide open. I hear something in a barn, and I talk, and it echoes back to me. I'm gonna walk in there and say, "What's going on in here?"
I don't know how much I should say about what it is that we're talking about.
Right.
But there was a scene where this thing is.
Yes.
And it's great because it doesn't break its concentration when it's right. And I thought that's so interesting because it so made it more bestial.
Yeah.
And of course that's an entirely side element. It turns out being kind of a side element to everything that's going on.
Yeah, totally. I think I would give this a. I don't think I'm at a 4, but right now I'm at a 3.8, and it could go higher with the last part of it, or lower. Who knows?
You've got to tell me. You've got to tell us when you finish it. You got to tell us if it was worth it, because the ending blows your mind. The ending really is cool.
And then I might lose a point because of the costume. I'm like, you can't get me distracted by a shirt. I was like looking at the shirt, going, "What is that?" That's like something that a high school theater class would come up with. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well. Anyway, I enjoyed.
I think it's worth watching.
I enjoyed it, and
But if you're sensitive to things that you might feel, like if you're really religious, you might hate this. Honestly.
Yeah. You know what? Suck it up, because by the time you get to the end, it is what it is, and it's not.
Well, I say that, but then I read an article by a Catholic priest who watched the whole thing and was cool with it.
And he enjoyed it, because there is a scene at the very end. There's a scene that kind of clarifies some of that, right?
Well, I'm going to watch the rest of 6 and 7 probably tonight, probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good man.